Welcome back, everybody, to the Subway Best of 5 sidekick here on the LCS Challengers League tournament. LiT Esports are now down 2-1 against our qualifier team in CCG. And Cubby, we have to figure out what champion can we look over towards LiT to try and salvage themselves here and put themselves to a decisive game number.
Ooh, good question here. I think that when it comes to the best of 5 sidekick, I've been memeing a little bit all split. Usually I say Yorick. Yorick is also fun because in this game, fun fact, Bradley in Champs Queue was actually reported for playing Yorick at one point, which I don't think he's going to play Yorick mid at all. But for this one, I'm going to go a little bit old school, go for LiT because they need a win. Rockboom, his most played champ this split was Jhin. I know that that was a favorite of Mazel's. And Mazel, he unfortunately had internet issues at some point today, so we have Grape stepping in. Mazel couldn't be here. So I'm actually going to give the shout out to Jhin for the best of 5 sidekick. Also, you know, the length of Jhin W and the range he has, that is kind of long, just like the foot-long sidekicks that you can pick up at Subway, as the churro, the cookie, and the pretzel all pretty delicious here, as Subway is, of course, supporting us the best they can. And I'm going to be honest, guys. We might have had Grapes have a little bit of an internet boom. So you might be stuck with me here as I get to fill the Subway Best of 5 Sidekick segment. I will say, the most interesting pick that we've had in the draft so far, probably, I would say the Kog'Maw coming out with Emilio. I know that AD got pushed really far down. So Rockboom digging deep, playing something that he didn't play in the spring split regular season was a little bit interesting to see in this Best of 5. And also, probably the Zeri that went off in Game 2. That was quite the sidekick to Instinct. Got off to a 9-kill start in the first 15 minutes. That was pretty fun. But unfortunately, there were some bumpy travels throughout that one, making sure that that sidekick turned into a victory. Not the case, though, in games, later games, I should say. As at the moment, I'm curious. I do want to throw it to a different graphic, as I know that I have Grapes back with me now. Grapes, we're going to have him exit leave. But let's go to the Fearless Draft graphic real quick. Shout out production for helping me out. As, of course, we are in a best of 5 Fearless. And these are all the champions now that cannot be selected by either one of these teams. So in terms of global bans, I think it's important to note that we have no Nautilus available for either of our teams. And besides that, it's a little bit sporadic, but we've had a lot of split drafts here, Grapes, as Grapes now back with us. I got through the sidekick segment. What champ do you want to see in Game 4, Grapes? You're prepping.
First of all, yeah, I was so ready for the best of 5 sidekick. I was going to say, well, you probably mentioned it already, but Dragoon's Darius, definitely an option.
Oh, okay. That's a good
one. It was
I missed that
open in the first phase of the draft here last game, and it was hovered by messages for a second, but I feel like all the time when LiT need a win, they will go to that Darius, and so that would have been my pick. I'm just curious now. What did you end up going for?
I ended up saying Jhin for Rockboom as a slight shout out to Mazel, but also it's his most played, and AD's been narrowed quite a bit this series, so interested if we do see that come out. For that though, I will say now on the red side, that Darius ban for me becomes a lot more viable for CCG, taking that away from Dragoon, as that could be an answer. He's willing to blind it, but best as an answer if you do see a lot of the info.
Really on the table, although now with a lot of bans taken away, like things could get interesting in terms of what these teams want to focus, and the focus has very much been the bottom lane throughout this series. Senna has not been able to see the light of day throughout this entire 4 games now that we're going in. It's just been banned every time because of such a high prio that both of these teams are putting on it.
Curiously enough, Varus has been taken away as well. I'm wondering if LiT give Varus in order to take Jhin and maybe get another champ away from CCG later on. Also, I think it's important to note, Aurelion Sol has not been picked yet by Bradley, and that was his big pick in OQs that was very dominant, and one that, I mean, that really puts a timer onto LiT, a team that hasn't had good early games. So I think it's really strong for CCG, and curious if LiT decides to maybe take that away later on in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, I'm having some nightmares thinking about the Aurelion Sol from yesterday's game as well, Cubby, and CCG was Bradley who really played it first. And with the Ahri ban, yeah, Varus will be available. The Jhin is an answer, as you said, but that has also been one of those picks that was taken away in all 3 games, and Instinct on the blue side is going to be selecting it here for CCG.
The thing for me is that if they do pick something like Azir, which Messages hasn't played yet, that should be an insta-ASOL answer from CCG. But I will say the Ahri ban, yes, that's a very strong first pick. That's something that Bradley could go for, and it's not available for LiT, as they did play that in Game 1. But I would not be surprised if we actually see an Aurelion Soul come out from LiT, as it would buy space for Sivir, and we did see that interaction it has with the Varus, where eventually your range gets very limited as Varus. So, wondering if LiT decides to go for that for Messages himself.
I don't remember 100% if we saw him play it throughout the NACL split. I would have to double check, but yeah, it doesn't ring true in my memory. But combined with the Sivir,
move the water bottle. He played it once.
Yeah.
I mean,
played it one time.
Azir's picked play ASOL. Azir, Sivir are so vulnerable to ASOL coming out. You gotta believe this is gonna be the pick for CCG.
I mean, it worked so well for Bradley throughout the entire qualifier split. Played it once in Game 3, that decisive game that ended up winning them the qualifier number 2 in the grand finals. Would be pretty easy of a decision for them if that is what they want to do. But I know Argentum likes to cook a little bit in these drafts, and with Game 4 of Fearless, things always kind of are up in the air a little bit. It's going to be an Aurelia lock-in that serves as a flex pick, but I think that's going for Bradley in the mid lane.
I feel like CCG, they've seen LiT's early games, and they're just like, all right, we're going to break these games rather quickly. And the Aurelia, I don't think it's going to go to Crimson, although for CCG, I expect that this is a flex. You tell me. Yep. But
definitely
okay, so this is a really late game comp already for LiT. Lamb's Respite will have some value against Aurelia Sage, just given they have to jump in. Everyone can stay alive, but now for LiT, I think it's who can get power over the Lamb's Respite. So Gragas is available to them. They need Dragoon to be on some form of tank, and they can really narrow up support. I expect them to ban melees going up against CCG, and I gotta say, Darius for Dragoon, I think, should be banned. It doesn't look too terrible right now. As the Azir, Sivir with Lamb's Respite, they do need some sort of frontline. Varus is a pick where you can actually punish the lower range. So Darius is something that I would not be surprised. I really want to see CCG deny it. I think it's something that could be picked. And yeah, there it is.
There it is. Taken away. It would be into the double melee mid jungle here for CCG. So that would be pretty big. But yeah, Darius, that was my pick for the sidekick, even though I ended up starting it a little bit late. But
actually,
we'll
you missed my story, Grapes. I said that Bradley, I've been picking Yorick for my sidekick because I think Yorick is actually sneaky OP right now. No one reads his numbers, and he's really awkward to play, and you got a sideline doing it. But Bradley, fun fact, he played Yorick in Champs Queue and then got reported to the council just for playing Yorick. He's like,
really?
It was in the Jace. It was a good matchup. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And they don't like experimentation over there in Champs Queue, I guess.
No.
Can't have any fun. I will say,
they cook too hard.
the Aurelia is something that I remember Bradley playing in the mid lane back when he was actually on Wildcard. There was this off tournament that that Wildcard actually ended up playing in, and it was them against Zeus, I think, with Darkwings in the mid lane. And Bradley had himself a very good game. I remember that one very specifically from about 3 years ago. So if the hands still are around, that would potentially be on the cards again. Kalista Hover here for CCG. We're looking instead for a top laner and a support.
I would really like Braum here into the Alistar. I think it's actually quite doable. You pair up with Varus and you already have a Sedge passive. Or honestly, something like Heimerdinger. You can space Alistar and get a pretty big lead in lane. So I think Trevor does have a couple options, but no, actually it's going to be the Rek'Sai. It's pretty much guaranteed that Aurelia is going mid, so a really big front line to hold for this Varus. More dive for CCG. And still curious how they round things out. I think Braum can really help them smork, as they really need to push forward, win fights early. And finding Braum passives on these squishy members for LiT, I think is very valuable.
Another tank for Crimson, which is interesting to me as well. He's more willing in this promotion tournament than I think ever before to play things that are not necessarily his play style. A Seraphine going to be locked in, arranged into the melee here for Trevor. That is a very interesting pickup here.
They're playing for lane. You can really space Alistar with Seraphine Varus. This Alistar is going to have a really tough time early. Same with Sivir. They're playing for lane. They're trying to push forward and make sure that they can get a big lane lead, which, to be fair, they've been able to do against LiT's bot lane all draft.
I'm curious what Dragoon goes here. That would be a wild response on R5. I was going to say, like, the one pick that was still kind of in the cards for Dragoon that isn't not either banned away or picked already by him is that set. I remember he played a lot of it when he was on LiT in Summer Split back in Tier 3. And so a good matchup into the Rek'Sai. You can jump in with the Showstopper and do a ton of damage with that health stacking tank that is able to get picked up.
You can kind of slow down this very heavy melee and try and find some re-engage. I think the combo is good, but I think Set's just weak right now. I actually really like Dragoon's Set. I feel like he plays it well, but I can't see a world where he's able to actually get through this Rek'Sai. And like with any of his kind of odd picks that I've seen Dragoon like to play, I mean, Garen would get blown out of the water early. But Garen, you actually have some value later on, and that's already all late game, so maybe they're just thinking they have to get a little bit of early game in there. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough game for LiT. CCG have all the prio in the world for bot. It can help affect mid. Rek'Sai will have push top. It's a full court press for the Sejuani to hopefully deal with his Kindred. We'll see what Kizno is able to do on one of his most successful champions that was denied from him for most of the split on this Kindred.
Yeah, I had a tweet go up at like the start of the NACL split when LiT actually won their first series off of Kizno's Kindred in Game 3. And I said, like, this guy's Kindred gotta be respected the same level as Dragoon's Darius is. And, you know, it was left up this time around in draft. It's been banned away the previous 3 games. And he's able to do a lot when he's on this pick. I mean, I think he only had like 2 losses or like on this champion at all throughout his career coming into this tournament. And so getting to select it again will have a pretty free opportunity in the jungle against Yukino. I'm excited for what LiT can bring if they're able to survive this early game onslaught. Now, unfortunately, we do have to inform you guys over at home that the draft is being remade because somebody took the wrong summoner spell. We'll have a couple more minutes to vamp here, Cubby. However, I think there's a lot on the line here in this game. This is, of course, match point for CCG, and they have an opportunity to be that qualifier team to make it into the NACL, and that's kind of been a pattern here in the promotion tournaments. It's been a lot of those teams from Tier 3 actually making it in over the teams that, of course, were struggling throughout the regular season in Tier 2.
I mean, 4 out of these 5 guys, of course, are trying to get back into this league. The only new one is Crimson, who is someone that, you know, given the pedigree, is pretty exciting. So I know for CCG, this is a really big match, and of course that they have been in these promotion tournaments before. They've earned their way through these tournaments before. They'd like to make this more competitive and try and get this one going. But I say for LiT, their late game's good. If they're able to get the team fights, I think their setup's fine. But I don't know if they can get there. I think this is going to be a really heavy lead for CCG early on. I mean, I would not be surprised. Like, I think 4K gold at 15 is honestly not bad given the LiT comp. Like, given how much lane priority CCG has. And I will say, a bit surprised the approach that CCG had, because again, I think you pick Aurelion Sol into Azir Sivir. Like, yeah, Sivir can get late game, but how can Sivir get in range to auto attack? You would have so much range as Aurelion Sol, and that pivot for me really says to CCG, they feel like they are the better team. They're going to blow this team out of the water in laning phase. To be fair, they've been doing that for the majority of these games, but Acel, you know, if your early game's good, you can just lean on that pick. We've seen Acel just auto-win games as things go later on. So maybe they're saving that for a Game 5. It's definitely something that if LiT gets to Game 5, I'd take that champion away from Bradley. I think it's very scary in OQs. I'd find a way to play it. That being said, not the scenario we're in. We're going to see how fast CCG can play things once we get into the game, which still be a couple minutes as we have to get through drafts again.
I was going to say, like, Bradley, 4,000 gold lead for CCG at 15 minutes. Like, that's honestly pretty good just in general when you take a look at like how the series has gone so far for LiT, right?
It's true.
And that's what's been impressive. The fact that they've been able to stay in these games despite falling behind. It's been a story that we've been following throughout the entire regular season. We're seeing a little bit again this time. Even the last game, when CCG kind of ran away with it a little bit, we were still seeing LiT fight tooth and nail all the way to that last fight where they even found a shutdown onto that 1k gold Aphelios on instant.
I mean, we'll see if LiT can roll up their sleeves and have a better early game, because it, like, as much as I want to praise LiT for some of the angles they're able to find in fights and like some of the positives we see from them when they are able to group up, if you want to play in Challengers League, you gotta lane better than this. Like, you can't be averaging going down 2k gold to 15, which was happening in our league, and going up against Challenger League's players. It's been almost worse today, which, given, I mean, some of the pedigree these guys have, I'm not too surprised about. I said coming into this, I feel like Bradley and Instinct have been the 2 best players in the tournament. I think Bradley's still having a very good performance today. Instinct He's been getting leads. He didn't snowball them 100% cleanly, but he was able to have a really good game 3.
Yeah.
And now this setup for game 4, like the ability for Seraphine to stand behind these melee picks, cast the ultimate, have the empowered W. It's going to be so easy for CCG to just brute force push forward into a comp that, for me, really needs 2+ items to operate on LiT.
Yeah, and for LiT, I know that the early game has always been a struggle for them, and this is actually something that I talked about with Hawk on our podcast Salty Runback going into this promotion tournament. That
See, you
thought
shouted
LiT
it
was
out
a group
this time. You didn't just say.
Yeah, I mean, you told me I should have done it before,
yes.
so this time I did. Make sure to check that
Good
out.
job, Grapes.
But when we did talk about LiT, talked about how there were a lot of players that we were excited to see in Tier 3, in Tier 2, but maybe we're all too new to be competing together as 5 to find success. And I feel like, in a way, that kind of, makes a little sense in the sense that, somebody like Sajed, who actually was previously on this LiT Esports roster in the summer split of 2023, he was able, with FlyQuest, to have some experienced veterans on his side and kind of get through some of those development stages in the start of the split. LiT don't really have that, as all 5 of these guys are playing in their first full split of NACL/Tier 2.
Yeah, and you can kind of lean on Plux and Dragoon. They've been competing for a while. Also, I do want to shout out Sajed. Fun fact, he's co-streaming this right now, so you can go over to his channel and check out him rooting on his old LiT boys. Kind of fun. Him and Kizna were actually doing a lot in Champs Queue before they removed Duo. Or I guess locked it to roles, I should say. So he still is pretty close with this squad, and definitely would love to see LiT at least push this 1-5 and have a chance to get back in the lead. But no, I mean, I appreciate the fact that you bring that up. But hey, there is a power to going through and experiencing things together. And I think LiT, and they talked about, they took a brief break after they did get relegated at the end of the regular season and came back, and they felt like everyone kind of came back refreshed and did really help them push forward here. So I appreciate the fact that they've been open about that, and it's been a much better look for LiT in this tournament. I do think the CCG, like, for me, they were my favorites. I had CCG promoting in the upper bracket. I had them either 3-0 or 3-1 today, so it's been closer than what I thought. And LiT, for me, have actually given me a lot of hope. Like, even if they do drop this series, I think it's going to be a tough best of 5, whoever they end up facing. That's going to be a really fun one to see who can get in the Challengers League, that 10th seed. But, of course, LiT, they want to make things a little bit more competitive now. They like the easy path.
We're writing them off right now, but hey, if they survive the early game and team fight the way that we know them to do, we're going to be playing Silver Scrapes here in the promotion tournament for the first time. We're on to the Rift here. CCG on match point, and all eyes towards that mid lane. Bradley on the Aurelia. Oh man, it's a classic one here in Game 4.
Yeah, so the fun fact, the auto bans against Bradley way back when he was a mid in 21, it was Gwen mid, because he was the only person playing Gwen mid.
Yeah.
And then Trevor?
Talk about aggression early game. He's going aggressive.
Just throwing it in Narnia, that's fine. It was Gwen mid, and then it was Aurelia. That was the next pick. And then Silas was the third. Usually you had to give up Silas, but Gwen and Aurelia were the auto bans. This is Bradley going back to his roots. Aurelia still a pick. He was able to play a bit in top lane, kind of like the Jace. As we did see Dragoon start W. I assume that Crimson can trade heavily on him with the Q. At least Dragoon can throw it back early on, because you won't have that E. Also, Dragoon's E will cancel tunnels, which can be kind of nice for him. There are a couple things that Dragoon can try and buffer in this matchup to keep things close, but overall, set passive does give him some bonus sustain, but I don't think it's enough sustain to get out of this matchup, so curious how Dragoon plays this out.
Compared to the Rek'Sai sustain, I mean, it's nothing. Dragoon's like losing health per second in comparison right here. I'm interested to see that he started W. Sometimes you see sets with Ignite, take E level 1 and just like start to punch somebody to death, push him out of lane. Dragoon knows that that's not a possibility here against Crimson, because he's just going to be able to sustain through this all. So most likely looking to scale a little bit more, which makes a lot of sense. As we said, the team fights for LiT look pretty well. But already we're seeing the impact in the early game with this double range bottom lane, and Plux and Rockboom are already pushed out.
I do want to highlight as well that it is the poke Varus. Of course, Varus has options. We do have Instinct going for the Ghost and the Comet, which tells me he's going full poke. We'll say makes some sense, especially against the Sivir. There are some things where, if you're in range of Kindred plus Sivir, you're not going to out DPS that, but poke-wise, you have all the range in the world against them, so we'll see if Instinct's able to catch that in.
Sure to spam in chat as well who you think is going to win. So far, seems like our chat is looking for Silver Scrapes, as they're slightly edged towards LiT, but A couple more CCG votes could definitely turn that around. We're head attack to the top lane. Crimson getting away from the true damage of the Haymaker. Definitely a nice option for him there. And he's winning these trades early against Dragoon.
Dragoon does have push, though. Of course, set with that passive very strong in the first 3 levels. He's going to try and get this one in. Did miss the cannon. And Crimson now with level 3. Nice dodge. Yeah, nice now Crimson wins. Dragoon's lane is really hard now.
Oh, and Yukino actually going up to the blue buff to try to invade Kisno. You saw the bottom lane for CCG also try to push Kisno out a little bit earlier, but now Yukino has an opportunity to take away this Gromp. With Instinct and Trevor doing a good job to get push in lane, it's going to be very hard for Kisno to secure that objective.
Instinct was jumped on.
We're going to go towards Instinct. Nice spell shift. Himself alive for Rock Boom. Arrow comes out. Crimson once again maintaining this freeze, and that's very big in the top lane matchup.
We'll say Instinct's kind of down mana and doesn't have a TP or anything like that to get back. A couple of these Qs and Es have gone pretty wide against Rock Boom, so it does give an angle where Kisno can kind of get in here.
Yep, Lux going in here with the headbutt pulverized. Trevor just gets one shot, and that's the danger of picking Seraphine down in the support position. It's first blood over to Kisno on the Kindred.
Yeah, no respect being paid by Trevor. Didn't react to the flash from Alistar. He ends up going down. Ignite was enough to not let the heal get to him. And again, this is all about the early game for CCG. We've seen LiT really struggle in the early game at times in the series, Grapes. The fact that they get a good start, a first blood onto Kisno on his Kindred. That's the best thing that LiT can ask for in this draft, given all the priority that we expect to be in the hands of CCG.
And remember, it's been CCG to have all of this early game advantage in all 3 games. Probably on average, 5,000 is the lead at about 15 minutes, and somehow LiT have come away with at least 1 win. So, early kill for Kisno. This is the first time LiT have secured first blood in a game this series. Definitely very big, especially for this Kindred, who, again, is going to continue to scale.
And honestly, from here, I'm just kind of curious, like, when will Sejuani go mid? Because just thinking of this Aurelia versus Azir matchup, Aurelia, especially once you get that first base, you can own Azir. And when Sejuani shows up, your ability to stack Permafrost, it is a lot. At the moment, we do have Aurelia basing messages. We'll get this wave in, but that means that TP is here for Bradley, who will now have item advantage. Messages has 6, but it's pretty much out of mana. So if CCG reset this, they should be able to return. Kisno will take 1, but now Bradley has item advantage, and I expect the second grub to go over to CCG.
Good for Kisno to at least get 1. I will say, Trevor was posturing very aggressive without any summoner spells and level 3 on the Seraphine, so I thought things could have gotten dicey a little bit, but it will instead be Yukino securing 2 out of the 3 first scrubs. And as we said, going to be early game focused. They control the top side of the map. Bradley has about a 12 CS lead. That's 2 full waves. And
oh boy.
The only advantage for LiT right now is the bot lane. They're trying to target it here.
Trevor doesn't have, or I should say, Instinct doesn't have Ghost, does have the Flash. Pluck's not going to look, though. As Trevor's still sunless, and again, it's really big that Sivir's actually able to get some farm in this lane. Zerk on Instinct, you got to expect he's going to try and poke out the Sivir. I will say Sivir uniquely, that spell shield is pretty nice to deal with the poke Varus, so we'll see really how effective Rock Boom is able to use that and get his farm. I think the early pressure that Kisno put down there really helped give Sivir a reprieve in some of those tough levels. And Instinct did not have the best first few levels, didn't force Sivir out, so did make things a little bit easier.
Bradley going aggressive on the message. He's already procking that Vanguard's Edge. Messages sitting in the ultimate to make sure he does not proc it a second time. Bradley looking to dash one more time, but is not in range, despite the Emperor's Divide going down. However, Yukino is in the area, looking to dive after this wave ends up crashing. Messages still has Flash. Does need to get away from this stun. Plux has arrived. I think they're not going to go for it, actually, as LiT are going to keep their mid laner safe.
And that's a Dragon going over for LiT, too, so first objective for LiT, and this early game for LiT going way better than what I thought it would be on paper.
I mean, you can look at the CS leads. CCG are up in all 3 lanes, obviously. Instinct up a wave, Crimson's up 2, Bradley's up about 3 or 4. But that's okay. Gold lead only about 700 or so. Kisno having a Dragon and having a Mark. It's a very good start here for LiT.
I will say, top lane's still doomed. This set, like, if you don't hit your power windows in the first few levels, it's tough. And now he's down to Bombies to a Longsword and doesn't have TP, so there's no reprieve up here for Set. I don't think it's diveable for Crimson and CCG, but you can see it's kind of a hard lane because Crimson just gets all of his health back, and Dragoon. Oh, okay, never mind.
There comes the Glacial Prison, and Crimson
diveable.
picking up the first kill for CCG. It was just that easy.
They needed to get the Haymaker out of there, and Dragoon locked up, not able to ult. That's going to be 2 plates going over to Crimson, and even more lost for the set. So this counter pick top, not paying off. I was a little bit suspect of it. I think Rek'Sai is really tough to move. For me, the best pick into it is, honestly, I like Udyr. I think Udyr would have been really valuable this game, given all the melees, but not the case. And now, LiT see the jungler and might have an opportunity to get onto Trevor, who is still very squishy and does not have flash.
See if that's a target they end up selecting. Rockboom procking the ult early. They're instead going for Instinct. A little bit more risky because he has the flash, but they're going to get it regardless. Kisno picking up his second kill. Pops the Lamb's Respite to make sure that everyone stays alive. But Trevor finally, with the second proc of that Q, will make sure it's a 1-for-1 with Flux falling.
Still well played by LiT. They're able to get something back, and this early game, while the gold is somewhat in CCG's favor, it's not too out of control outside of topside, where this Rek'Sai, that is a Sunfire cape rolling back to lane, and that is going to be Doomsday yet again for the set. But return to this play. Setup's there. They have the wave. They spot a jungle. They know they can make this play. Flux getting in here. He eats the Aftershock, gets everything off that he can. He did take one too many tower shots. The Chain of Corruptions did spread to Kisno. That's a really nice ult from Kisno, and props to Flux for getting back in here. Kisno able to seek out. Flux unfortunately does fall. And now,
back to live. Oh, nice headbutt under the turret for Bradley. He has to burn his flash. Now on the wrong side of the map. Dragoon on the way. I think Bradley, a bit of a dicey spot. He has his flash.
Unironically, Bradley can win this.
Link up. And it's a stun on to Flux. There comes Crimson as well. Dragoon just needs to hit that ult button, and Bradley's likely dead. Instead, not going to be able to find it. There's the headbutt, and Messages will be the one to pick up the shutdown. The rest of CCG on the way. Kisno still level 6. Jumping forward to get a little bit of an extra damage onto Yukino. And now, CCG have an angle. They look towards Dragoon, though, right down the middle. Yukino picking up the kill onto Kisno, and now LiT are in trouble. They dash forward. Messages gets it onto Yukino with the blue buff. Going to be able to have a little bit more mana to survive, but not enough to stop Crimson, who is so tanky on the front line. Dragoon trying his best in the 2v2. Void Rush comes out. It is now a 1v2 as Crimson picks up another, and Trevor staying just out of range to make sure Dragoon cannot get on top of him. This Rek'Sai pick, just unbelievably strong. Dragoon trying to get something, but the face breaker is not enough damage. Trevor's on a killing spree, and CCG win the fight.
This Rek'Sai is going to be so big this game. Let's take a look at this. The Messages, really nice combo as they throw Bradley all the way back in turret. I think Bradley should have flashed out before taking the second one, because, yeah, he gets over the wall, but he's on the wrong side of the map. I thought there was a world where him and Crimson could turn it, because Bradley gets so much lifesteal, even with the Vamp Scepter on Aurelia, but he chooses not to jump into Plux. Instead, plays for the Blast Cone spawn, and Plux is able to get all of his abilities off, so Bradley ends up falling, but then on the back half. Crimson on this Rek'Sai. I said how he rushed the Sunfire cape, Grapes. No one was able to touch him in this fight. Messages is not big enough yet, and Crimson just ran wild as he removes Kisno, who is down Lamb's Respite, then moves on to the right target and Messages, and Crimson just has a massive fight where no one can move him. He's too big.
Look at him. They're all trying to hit him. Dragoon obviously couldn't do it. Flux is just an Alistar. Messages was as well, which ended up being a pretty big deal. And then it was just a long, extended 2v1 here where Dragoon almost had an opportunity to get back onto Trevor, but it was a nice spacing job by the Seraphine to make sure that he did not go down.
Oh my goodness, Crimson is going to be massive this game. That Rek'Sai is going to be a problem in the hands of Crimson. Again, cannot be moved in that top side. And now, but he still caps the boot. I feel like Crimson has a lot more gold to spend than just that, sitting at 2-0-3. Bounty on his head. Oh boy, I think for LiT, again, they need so many items to really get going in this one, Grapes. And I don't know if they can get there.
They got a little bit closer to that with Messages specifically. He was able to pick up that shutdown onto Bradley as well as another one in that fight. But
it's a Bork Aurelia.
Still a lot more that they're going to need, obviously. They're now down 3,000 gold. We said 4K was kind of the mark at around 15 minutes where we could say this is maybe winnable for LiT. But we're getting very dangerously close to that location. And CCG have a dragon that they could potentially take, and Messages might be in trouble here with Yukino. Throwing out that Glacial Prison. Messages doesn't have flash. He pops the Emperor's Divide to try to separate some people for now. The Encore comes out. Nice shifting stands to keep the Azir away.
I think if Trevor's there immediately and they're able to combine Encore, it's good. Bradley didn't have flash, so he couldn't get over the Emperor's Divide. He was trying to space it, just wasn't the case. As Crimson doesn't see Messages moving. So we'll not be able to find it. That should be enough, though, where this Dragon goes over to CCG. But LiT, they have a TP on messages, and they are kind of posturing.
Remember last time we said Dragon was going to go over to CCG? Did not end up going the way we expected. And Kisno, with the ulti, has the opportunity to get a little funky here on the steal. Instead, CCG just collapsing onto messages who just TP back into the fight. Bradley under the tower. There comes the Void Rush as well. Dragon goes over, but messages is down. Now it's CCG in a bad spot underneath the tier 1 turret. Bradley will make it a trade 1-for-1. Kisno currently untouched, but Crimson is so tanky on the front line. Not going to be able to go down. It will just be the 1-for-1, but LiT pick up a crucial 2-Dragon lead.
Can't really see the Alistar value in this game because playing all these melees into Alistar and even this poke Varus, Lux is really valuable and just throwing bodies around. Bradley got thrown under the turret, couldn't go anywhere, and now Trevor, he's got flash up. Maybe a bait. Kisno wants to flash out. Instinct.
He missed the combo onto Instinct. That could have been big. Instinct flashing away instinctively to make sure that he's able to keep away. Kisno still has the ulti. Might have to use it instead, just going to save it because he knew he was dead in a 1v4. Now LiT's bottom lane trapped underneath their own turret. They're going to wait for messages to try to arrive. Flux pops the ultimate to try and stay alive. Trevor now has to flash away, but Rockboom's in a lot of trouble, and Yukino the one to land the final blow.
Crimson is just a menace on this rift, and Messages is trying to go back mid. He's going to get Sejuani'd.
Just a greedy path from the young mid laner. Bradley picking up another kill. This thing is getting a little bit worse here for LiT Esports as CCG have extended their lead to 4.5k.
And it's going to get so much worse when this Aurelia gets into the side wave. I think that's where things start to get really bad for LiT. And with bot turret being broken, this is the signal to get Aurelia Rek'Sai into the two sides. I think they're going to play for Rift Herald, and then it's the 1-3-1 where whatever side Sejuani plays to will be winning for CCG. Kisno, he walks right through Sejuani, eats the permafrost, and ends up getting gunned down by Rek'Sai. And guess what? This fight went so long that, I mean, I don't really know. It really just feels like Crimson's impacting the map and Dragoon's not. And I know that part of that was the draft, part of that was how they set up top lane, but Crimson is having himself a massive game. And Dragoon on this set just hasn't been able to get involved yet. So now we're going to have both melees in the side lane. You can see Instinct's mid, Bradley's going bot. And this is the Doomsday setup for LiT, where this map's just going to keep on collapsing.
And now it looks like Kisno might be in a little bit of trouble again. Remember, he still has the ulti. This time he's going to proc it because they know they have an angle potentially onto Instinct. Flux going to dive in. Kisno will still go down as Rockboom not able to find the last couple of boomerangs to finish the job onto the enemy AD carry. Here comes Yukino. A beautifully played Glacial Prison will find the Sivir, but not enough damage for the rest of the team to follow up. Flux now on the escape. Look at the deep TP coming in from Crimson, and he is a Rek'Sai who is super tanky and looking to make a ton of plays here in the enemy river. That's a rampage now for the Rek'Sai. Make it another one as Rockboom falls, and CCG taking over this game.
And this is the part of the game where this comp's strong, and I think Kisno walking in there, that's just very disrespectful. Like, I know they just took Herald, and he's trying to get something on the other side of the map. You are too far behind at this point. If you're overextending on their side of the map against an all-melee team,
the messages. Oh, nice Emperor's Divide. The Seraphine keeping Instinct alive for now, but it will be a kill going over to Kinsto and make it a double. A big 600 goal shutdown, and that is a big play coming out from the LiT Esports jungler.
Well, speaking of disrespect, we have seen this from multiple CCG multiple times in this best of series, and their cooldowns were down. They overextended. Instinct was really low. They were trying to get Herald Crash and end up giving away some shutdowns. Still big for CCG. They get pressure on the turrets. They got all the waves in, so they had info. They just didn't need to push forward there. And this series is starting to get a little bit sloppy on each side. I think LiT aren't having the best solutions on how to get back. They kind of have to play for shutdowns, but you got to be really careful against a melee comp because if you are that far forward on the map, they get the entire map to chase you now that turrets are down. And LiT were not able to deal with that. And the only reason they got something back is that CCG just pushed way too far up.
Crimson is so far ahead, man. I mean,
he is.
Again, coming into this draft, I was not expecting this Rek'Sai to come out for him. If anything, like maybe Dragoon would have whipped it up, but for Crimson all season, it was the Renekton, it was the Aatrox, it was these bruisers that, you know, he could potentially try to carry on. And he even said in interviews that, like, I really love playing carries, I want to just play carries, but the Gragas game, he has the Rek'Sai game here, like, this is a player that really, the biggest thing that he wants to do is win, get into the NACL, and he's doing everything that it takes get to that spot. And if they end up winning this game, at least the organization is going to be there.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like, again, CCG. I feel like this roster, once it was put together, I was really rooting for these guys to make it, Grapes. Like, given all the players that we have on this team and how well they were playing in OQs, it's like, oh, if this team makes it, they're going to be the favorites. And the fact that they needed to win the OQ pretty much until the last day where they found out they could have, like, the final didn't matter. They'd just be first or fourth. It's like side select for that game. They still won it. And this team was nothing but dominant throughout all that. And now getting all these names back in Challengers League, names we're familiar with, names that had a lot of hype behind them at one point. It'd be pretty exciting to see them get back in.
And I know the org as well has been trying to get into the NACL for the last couple of splits. They joined last spring. They played a multitude of different rosters. They had another one actually with some of Messages' teammates formerly on the third-party roster with like Lunar and Just were on that team. Shocky was on that team. But they just came short in both splits, unfortunately. And this is finally the time that they are able to find the perfect roster to send them there. And again, the expectation for them is to promote into Tier 2. And that's been the sentiment from all these players. And they've lived up to it. There's been some sloppy gameplay, but they're definitely, in a really good spot to send themselves into the NACL.
And this point of the game is just going to be way too strong for CCG because their ability to play out 3 lanes, it just cannot be matched by that. They're going to have to overload and try and make plays on these very fed side laners. As right now, they're picking the Rek'Sai side to play towards, and I think that's the wrong one.
Even with the Rek'Sai, it's very unkillable at this point. You see the 2 full items. Now Dragoon's just going to get hammered by Yukino and Trevor. Gonna be very tough. Messages stole away the blue buff, is able to do a decent amount of damage, but Crimson's just able to heal that all up. You see 195 HP per tick of that, the unburrow right there. Here comes LiT on the other side. Dragoon flashing forward onto Yukino, but Yukino will just be able to dash away.
Well, overload play on both sides went sideways. Everything is being kept pushed up by CCG. They get to deny these jungle camps. As the red buff being taken 15 per seconds before it gets Oprah'd to everyone, but they're going to be happy taking that as Trevor takes the red buff away from Bradley. It's a little sus. Unfortunately, I don't think it matters that much for LiT. As this tower should fall, and LiT just don't have the option to make any plays anywhere.
Now Messages actually fighting Crimson on the side lane. This actually could be an angle potentially, but now here comes the teleport from Bradley. Flash forward from Crimson. Kisna will have to follow his summoner of his own. And now it's the solo laners fighting it out here for CCG. Dragoon here to match with his teleport. Here comes Kisno. Lamb's Respite utilized already, but the Vanguard's Edge doing a ton to zone. Haymaker finds Bradley, and now Crimson has to fight 1v3. Kisno's kiting, will be able to survive, and that's 2 big kills for NACL reps.
They're on the Baron, but it's Poke Ferris. We'll see if they can get it down in time as Bradley overextends into the Lamb's Respite. A lot of cooldowns were burned before that came down. They weren't able to one-shot Kisno, and now
Kisno back.
There's no smite here.
Yeah, they could definitely send it. The question is, how much damage can LiT do on the other side? Baron will go down, but here comes the pulve. It's on to Trevor. Encore comes out, but that's the dead Seraphine here. Plucks flashing forward, find a kill on Yukino. If they could get it to Messages or Rockman, it will be big, and it's the Sivir picking up the shutdown.
All right, CCG, they tremble a little bit. I know they took the Baron off the map. That's actually, it's not terrible. You only get Baron on one person, but at least they don't give the Baron for LiT to answer. But a little bit of a slip up here on this 1-3-1 is both solo laners, when they overload to the same side, they don't find the win. And Kisno got a couple of really big shutdowns in that fight and gets to clean up the enemy jungle afterwards too. So this Kindred is in the game. And if Kindred is able to pick up a Black Cleaver coming up next, I think that this could be really significant for LiT. It's going to help boost all of his teammates' damage as well. And there is a world still where Sivir into all these melees like Rockboom can kind of power through and DPS down if he's able to play out these fights cleanly. And we did see Rockboom really step up big in game 1. So there is a world here where they can push this to 5.
That's 2 items. So does Messages and Kisno. Like, the scaling is starting to get there, Cubby. And even though CCG have the Rally Cry Baron buff for another 2 minutes or so, I think CCG are in a good position to clear the waves. Azir, Sivir, 2 champions that can deny a lot of these pushes by a team with Baron buff. You see Rockboom already just instantly melting that wave. Messages here to try to clear one of his own. And only Instinct, I believe, has the Baron buff because everybody else went down. Here comes LiT. They're going to fight again. Crimson getting locked up a little bit, but he just feels so much. On the other side, though, Kisno in a lot of trouble. He has to pop the ultimate in 2v1, and Bradley going to try and push him out of the fight. He flashes forward, the Blaze Surge is in, and finally he goes down. But it is a 1-for-1 as Kizno falls. Now still, Dragoon looking to push forward. Still has that showstopper, looking for an ultimate, looking to try and fight a little bit more here for LiT. Trevor gets locked up here by the Stride Breaker. The stun will connect. Plucks over the wall, finds Yukino. LiT are a little bit split in terms of their target selection, but right now in a good spot. Here's Bradley with a Blast Cone. Finds the stun on the Plucks. That's another kill. Going over to CCG. Instinct still untouched on this backside as well. Dragoon finally pulling the trigger with the ultimate, but now he's separated from his team. It is not enough for him to get the kill onto the Varus, and he snipes him with a piercing arrow. Messages gets a kill on the other side. 3 for 2 CCG overall.
You can see this fight. These fights are getting closer, but honestly, CCG kind of outplayed him. Crimson threw himself under the Azera turret and went down, but the rest of the fight, CCG managed that so well, being down numbers, as Bradley Instinct really stepped up in that one. CCG continued to push forward. That's going to be another Dragon for them. Baron push in the power play isn't exactly what they wanted across the Rift here, Grapes, but you can see CCG, they're really brawling this one out. And I got to say, fights get closer and closer as this game goes on. Really big they were able to take down Kizno early.
I don't shout him out, though. Like, Kizno bought a lot of time here. Bradley had a flash, and then that ended up with him going down at the end.
And you can see Crimson here. Like, he kind of sent it under the turret, so we have the 4v4. And, like, this for LiT, it's doable, but you can see they still get outranged. And the ability for Seraphine, Varus to walk back, and for them to really just manage the fights they're taking. They're trading in their cooldown windows. Then Bradley walks forward when they actually have an angle. He gets a freebie. Love how Instinct played this fight out, stepping up, landing the slow in the choke, and then flashing out when the Haymaker came in. Really well managed here from Instinct. Curious if LiT can maybe try and find a punish with Varus now missing Flash. Something they could look at. A lot of summoner spells are down, and I gotta say, for me, that still really goes towards the melee team that like needs to keep on pushing forward. I feel like that's a small advantage for them. But Messages and Rock Boom do have an angle where Flash is coming up. I would love to see LiT almost kind of push for a small skirmisher fight. Because CCG are playing out 3 lanes, and if you are LiT, you do have to overload and force onto one side still.
Baron's up about 2 minutes. I don't think Bradley or Instinct will have their flashes at that point, so they have to pull the trigger in the next 90 seconds or so. Messages' flash about to come out. A big Shurima shuffle for him could send LiT right back into this game and send us to that decisive Game 5.
All right. Well, this game ended up being a little bit closer than I thought, Grapes, and it kind of feels like Game 2 again, you know?
Yeah. I feel like the deficit in Game 2 was a little stronger. I think LiT actually are in a much more winning position than they were in that Game 2. Not to say that they're in a winning position right now, but we're starting to see the items rack up a little bit. Dragoon was pretty useful in that last fight. He's able to break things up by using that showstopper, separating members from each other. And if he can find a good one, specifically on the Crimson, that is where things can start to look good here for LiT. But Bradley going to try to catch him out here. He does a lot of damage to the Blade of the Ruined King, and the whole squad is rolling up to take Dragoon down. Bradley's on a killing spree, and that's a big death here for LiT, who now have to play the next 40 seconds in a 4v5.
Yeah, CCG, they weren't showing anyone on top. I can't really blame Dragoon for trying to step up and take that, because CCG have been disciplined with playing out 3 lanes the entire time, but no one was showing. Not the case. He steps up. He goes down. Baron might be spawning, but Bradley's going to be able to power play, get this all the way in on the bot side. And if he shifts to mid, there should be an angle where CCG have first say over Baron.
Spawning in about 30 seconds. Dragoon will be available, but as you said, like the positioning game, the vision game, not going to be on the side. Down 4v5.
He's going to take this and then probably shift down. You can see LiT, they're retreating. No one's showing, so Bradley, he's got to shift down, but he can TP to any fight for CCG, including a potential just Baron hit. As just hitting this for them could bait out LiT to kind of walk into this melee comp, but okay, no. They're going to stay disciplined, not hit the Baron. I will say, we're at the point where I think CCG has to really think about pushing this game state forward, because LDR coming in on Rock Boom, which he just was able to pick up in base, for me, that's a significant item. That's really going to help try and get through this front line. And if Rock Boom is able to put together 1 or 2 more items against Sivir, against all these melees, it actually managed this out pretty well. I think the Sivir, it was picked early in draft, it ended up being really valuable this game later on. The lane's the tough part of the game, but once Rock Boom's here, he's kind of chilling. Yeah. And Rock Boom, he's going to be the member that they really have to protect if they want to push this one to 5. Now with CCG starting the Baron, we'll see if LiT is able to snuff this one out.
Yeah, so that play that we were hoping that they'd make, not possible because Dragoon died. Finally, Looks like CCG are going to be spotted here, but Dragoon getting caught out a little bit by Bradley. Haymaker going to save him a little bit of time. CCG do not want the Baron, instead they want the fight. Rockman has to cleanse away from the Glacial Prison. Dragoon has to flash out for the Vanguard's edge. Now look at the front line. Big charm coming out from Trevor, and a 2-man stun from Bradley to follow things up. Lamb's Respite utilized to try to keep Rockboom alive. He gets sniped by the arrow, but look at Dragoon on the other side. The showstopper, not enough, and CCG get 4. It's a triple kill in for Instinct, and even though Messages can get one back, it is going to be CCG pushing down mid to try to end.
The range from the Varus to Seraphine was too much for Rockboom to deal with in that fight. Instinct played that so well, keeping Sivir really at the bay of that one and forcing out the early Lambs fight, finding the snipe in the back half. CCG, will this be the final push to get them back into Challengers League for 4 of these players?
It is 10 seconds now on Rockboom. They're already onto the Nexus turrets. Crimson flashing onto Messages, who was the lone survivor. He tried to dash away, but that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new team entering the LCS Challengers League for 2024 summer, and its name is CCG Esports. Bradley leading the charge. They take the series 3-1 over LiT.
I gotta say, this is an exciting team to have back. We've seen 4 of these players before. I think the core of especially Yukino and Instinct, still very young. I know Instinct showed up on the LCS stage. He was 17 at that point and was a player I was really looking forward to see develop. Feels like he's really found his home. And Bradley being back in mid lane, which is always the home that I knew Bradley for, really exciting. He was dominant in this tournament, and I'm excited to see this team in Challengers League next split.
We've called Bradley the prodigal son of the mid lane in Tier 3 because he was there before. He comes, he leaves and he comes back to the mid lane and once again finds himself in a Tier 2 game. We're going to go back to the replay of that last fight. Not that there was an angle maybe here, but CCG just too far ahead. And again, I want to shout out Crimson for doing such a good job buying space.
Yeah, Crimson was really big this game on the Rex side. Another player, I mean, congrats to him making Challengers League, as now all 3 brothers have played in the secondary league on his path to make all 3 brothers play for the Pro League. That's got to be really exciting for everyone inside that family. You can see this return of this fight. So big. The chain of corruption from Instinct, it caught everyone, and then he finds Rockboom on the route later on. Instinct was a beast in this fight, picked up the triple kill, and I mean, I'm excited to have this team in. The core, Crimson, Yukino, and Instinct really so young. Bradley coming back to mid. A position where he took 5th, 6th in Proving Grounds on an amateur team with Arrow, with Wildcard. They were so good that year with Doko Winston as well. And again, this is a team for me. All these players have been in this league minus Crimson and have proved their worth. And for them to go through promotions and earn their way back in, this is why we have stuff like the promotion tournament. So all these guys can prove their worth and prove they earn a spot in Challengers League. Congrats to everyone at CCG, as they did nothing but prove that ever since they entered OQs. They've been dominant. With Bradley, they've only dropped 2 games that were in this tournament, by the way.
Yeah.
So the fact that's a stat is just crazy and really speaks to why everyone has CCG as the favorites and can't say enough good things about them and these young guys stepping into the LCS, or NACL, I should say.
Not LCS just yet, although that could be the trajectory for some of them eventually.
LCS Challengers League, yeah. A little bit of a difference.
Hey, we saw the roster get announced, and I think a lot of people just were like, okay, this team's going to promote in. They did their job. A lot of very talented players, and we're going to be hearing from one of them after this break. It'll be Bradley calling in after this.
Introducing the new Footlong Sidekicks at Subway. Try the warm and delicious Footlong Cookie, Footlong Pretzel, or Footlong Churro.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here with our Rally Cry post-game interview. We're joined by Bradley, the mid laner of CCG Esports, after taking a 3-1 series win over LiT to qualify himself and the rest of his team into the LCS Challengers League for next split. Bradley, first of all, love the shirt. Drip check real quick.
Thank you.
Really nice. And
Thank you.
Where are you right now?
Thank you. Gangster Mario. I'm actually at Bethany Lutheran's, I'm at their esports lab right now. I stepped outside so I could do the interview, and I'm on my phone. It's a little scuffed, but it's better than no cam, I think.
No, absolutely. It's great to have you. I just want to ask you right off the bat. You've been a champion of this league, Challengers League, playing top lane. You're back in mid. Yeah. What's it like for you with this squad to qualify for Challengers League and for you to earn your way back in with your original position?
I mean, it feels pretty good. Even myself, I don't want to say I had doubts going back as a mid laner, because I definitely felt like I had earned respect as mid, but at the same time, it's who knows, I'd stepped away for 2 years. No one really knew if I would be up to par with the highest level of NACL. And I guess we still kind of don't know, but I am excited now that I've earned it to, play against players like Quad, like Spyrax, like Roamer, I think are probably the top 3. So, I think going forward, if I can prove myself against them, what's to say that I can't go LCS as mid?
Yeah, you were in Korea for a little bit, and then you end up coming back here. I know we've talked about this before, but just for the viewers watching, what was the story and the path for you deciding to play in this tournament and qualify into the NACL after taking the first tournament off?
So my time in top lane, it was good, right? I had won the first 2 competitions in a row my first year. I was really happy. And then afterwards, I would say we did good, but obviously not maybe up to expectation level. So I kind of took time to think about what I want for my career, right? Because coincidentally, when I made the swap to top lane was weak. When I end my 2 years of top lane is strong, right? We have 30, licorice. So I'm thinking, I'm top, I could stay mid, or I go back to mid. And I kind of just thought about it, and I was well, if I'm in here for the long haul per se, because top lane's strong now, I really have to prove myself. Why don't I just go back to the role that I feel I enjoy more, right? Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to be here for a long time, I feel I should enjoy it more, and I just feel I do that better with mid.
I mean, honestly, props to you. I think if you enjoy it more, it helps you improve day to day as well if you're more invested in having fun yourself. And I know that it's a risk to role swap in the first place and to go back, but you've made it, and I just want to open the floor to you. You've got an amazing young team around you as well, and Argentum helping out behind the scenes. You guys just qualified for Challengers League, so any thank yous or shout outs you want to give to your guys' teams before you guys hop in for this upcoming summer?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to thank, the first, all my teammates and the staff, I wouldn't be here without, the teammates here to help support me. And truly, I do feel bad sometimes because I do have good games, right? But genuinely, I do think my teammates are really good as well. So I want praise to go to them as well, not just me. So yeah, shout out to them, and then shout out to my family as well. They've been very supportive. Even when I was on TL, they were very supportive. Some of them were even in Twitch chat, I'm sure. My brother, the one who got me into League, he's been watching my games. One of my sisters literally downloaded Discord to join the family server where they all watch my games. Literally a day or two ago.
That's cool.
So yeah, I've got a lot of people supporting me, and I'm pretty thankful.
Well, thank you very much, Bradley. We're looking forward to seeing you and CCG compete in the Challengers League for the summer split after taking a split off.
Gotta add some more chains,
Of course.
Just like that,
you know how cool
just
it'd
like
be
the
if
Mario
I got
down
3?
there,
Yeah. You know how
It'd be
cool
better
it'd be
than
if I
the
got
2
3?
chains, man.
That'd be a banger post.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Bradley. We'll let you go and celebrate with the rest of the squad as we will have to close out our show for the day. A fun series between CCG and LiT. And Cubby, very quickly, I just want to say I love how every time that I've talked to Bradley, that we've talked to Bradley, either in interviews or on different opportunities to speak, he always shouts out his teammates because, just such a great guy. And even though he's been one of the better players for his team, everybody else really took big steps here in this series specifically.
I mean, League's a team effort. I appreciate the fact that he's shouting out his team. I feel like at times other members got a little bit underserved. Shout out Instinct, who I thought had a massive last fight and game. I know it was a little bit shaky in game 2. I'm not looking forward to VOD reviewing game 2 later on. I'm going to be honest about that one. But we can move forward. We see the bracket as we have to review where we're at in this tournament. All best of 5s now, Grapes. And we have a big one, a rematch between Blue Otters and Winthrop. Yes, they did play in the first round of the qualifiers, but this was also the final of the very first OQ. And it's a pretty even score so far, Grapes. We'll see if Winthrop can kind of get the best of them when it matters, as the difference in seeding was really the result of that first final.
It's officially 4 games to 4 games now, because it was a 3-2 in the grand finals and a 2-1 for Winthrop after Blue Water won the championship in this first qualifier play-in. So those are some very evenly matched teams, and I'm interested to see who ends up facing off against LiT, and I'm very excited for that game that we're going to be seeing on Sunday here, Cubby, because I think LiT have taken some big strides, but these qualifier teams are still hungry, and I think that either of them can have a very, very good series against them.
And look, I'm going to be honest. I thought CCG were the big favorites coming in. They only dropped 2 maps. This was the best laning team that we have. I think it was the worst matchup for LiT, given the strengths and weaknesses of LiT as a team. I think we'd have a real chance against either of these squads, but I got to say, I was really impressed by Blue Otter. They had some good macro in their series that I feel like got them the win against Mirage Alliance, and that team, of course, stock filled with talent that we're very familiar with. And Winthrop, for me, I know game 1 against Ole Miss was, they probably should have dropped, but game 2 they made sure was really clean, and they're playing maps rather fast. So we'll see if Blue Otter can find ways to answer that in that series. I'm excited to see that best of 5 tomorrow. Would not be surprised if that goes the distance, as that is what history has said so far.
Yeah, make sure you go check that one out. It's going to be crazy starting 4 p.m. Pacific again here on twitch.tv/LCS_Challengers. Make sure you stay tuned here as well, because we're going to be rating another LCS champion in Umpty. We rated APA yesterday, Umpty today. Go show him some love, as we're going to be seeing more of him in some international play for North America in just a couple of weeks. But thank you to everybody. Thank you for letting me for having me on here.
No, thanks for joining
again for Mazel, and hope that everything is going okay back there in the cabana. Shout out to our entire production crew, including Emery, Cynthia, of course Kai and Elton, our observing team, and of course you, Cubby, as well, for helping me out a little bit here on our last day.
No, I had a blast, Grapes, and shout out to the teams for competing, everyone tuning in. Promotion tournament, it's very high octane. I mean, it's pretty big stakes, and fun to see what these teams, when they get pushed, what kind of answers they come up with. So we got a lot of tournament left, and I'll definitely be looking forward to tuning in.
Make sure to tune in tomorrow. Again, it's a rematch of that first qualifier finals between Winthrop University and Blue Otter League. But until then, we'll say so long for now, and we'll see you tomorrow for more promotion tournament.